Hi, this is CS170 again. I'm gonna do another quick video on debugging. I was gonna actually record like the next section for JavaScript, but I've been getting like a lot of code snippets from people, and I thought I would just maybe share one of them to help talk you through some more examples about debugging. Okay, so this right here is like a code snippet I got from one of our students, and asking me to troubleshoot this and figure out what's going on. So, you know, again, if you send me like a screenshot, might be a little bit hard for me to catch some of the errors here, but you give me a piece of code, I can just paste it into here, and then I can just break it down and run it, similar to how I explained in the last video. So let's see what we have here. So, it's pretty cool. They actually started to play around with the function, which is something that we're going to go into a little bit later, but I can appreciate the initiative to try out how to do the function. The problem here is they gave me this code without the function declaration, right? So, to kind of say this doesn't really do me much any good here. So actually, there is uh, a math library that JavaScript can access, which will calculate the square root. But since we're here, I'll probably do like a demonstration of having that function. But for now, let's take that out of the equation here. Um, so this is again, like I mentioned before, you want to break down the problem into smaller pieces. If you have a long piece of HTML, or JavaScript, I should say, it's going to take you a while to figure out what's going on just with what I have here. So if I just do var x equals to 0, and don't forget the semicolon, and then let me just take this guy out. Actually, I should just comment it out. So I'm going to comment this out for a second. Okay, and let's see what happens when I run this. Okay, so this we already know is working, so don't have to worry about that. In fact, I could have just taken this guy out, but it's fine. It's just a very simple code from before. I'll leave it there. I know that's not a problem. So these variable declarations all look fine, right? Very simple here. And then we already took out this bit of code. So there has to be an issue here. Okay, now if I really didn't know what was going on by looking quickly at this, I would probably take all of this out here, and then I would probably see that it would print fine. Okay, actually let me do that for you while I'm talking it through with you guys. So let me just take this out, and then I'll run it, and of course it works fine, right? So that means we know the error has to be in here somewhere. Okay, and so what they're doing is taking this and just concatenating everything together. Here's the variables, here's some string, right? And you actually don't need to concatenate two strings like this. So let me just do this, right? That simplifies it. And then here, that looks fine, right? I just put a space around. And so this looks like the error right here. You see the plus sign and there's nothing after it, okay? And then I do that. And let's see what happens when I do that. And there you go. It works fine. Okay, so by narrowing down the scope of the problem, we were able to isolate the issue fairly quickly. Okay, now let's step back into here. Before we get into this, let's deal with the problem with this function here. Okay, so if I do this, I kind of know that this is an issue already, right? But let me just do this so you can see what's happening, right? So this is not good, right? So what has to happen is I have to declare this function. I can't, this is not a function declaration, this is not a call to a function or anything, right? So this is not going to work. So let me just do this very quickly. So I do the function, and math square root. And I happen to know that there's a math library call to calculate the square root. So I'm just going to stick that in here. Where's my close squiggly? Right. So when I do the function declaration, you say function, here's the name, here's what you're going to put in. You're going to put in something that you want to calculate a square root on. You're going to have this squiggly, open squiggly and close squiggly here. And then you're going to put in something here. You have to return it. Right. So a function essentially returns something. Right. So I'm going to do a return like this. Okay. And then it'll be the calculation. But let's say I forgot what is the square root in JavaScript. So let me do JavaScript. I'm going to do a search and then square root. Okay. So how do I get the square root in Java? Okay. And here we go. So you can see I can do this thing called math.square root. Okay. So let me I'm just going to copy and paste this guy right here. And where my JavaScript here go? Come on. So I'm going to do this. Right, and what this is saying is math, return math.square root of 49. Right, so actually it doesn't matter, I pass in this. And here, we're going to do a call. So I'm going to say var, let me just call this a square, equals the result of this function. All right, let's see if that's simple enough. And then let me put my semicolon here. And let's do a document dot write square equals plus square. Let me just do some carriage return to clear this out a little bit. BR. Let's see what happens here. Oops, what happened? What did I do? Var square root, math square root value return math square root of 49. Okay. Yeah, stupid me, I forgot to declare the variable for a value. So var value, it doesn't really matter what I put in here right now, but let me just do 49. Okay, and there we go. Okay, all right, so I don't know if I explained that, but so basically this was the issue, right? It's really important to declare variables. You can't just like wing it and just write a variable here without ever declaring it. So that's why I had to declare this variable. Okay, so that was one thing. All right, and the fact that I picked 49 here doesn't matter because I actually just kind of hard coded this to be that. All right, but I did print out the result here, so you can see that when I did this, I returned the value stored in this variable, and then I did a document write to show that. All right, but just for the heck of it, let me put in right in the function to show that I got into the function, and I'm going to say value here. And let me put in the value here. Okay, so now it does matter. Whatever I set this value will flow all the way down to here. I'll calculate the square root and I'll return it back. And there we go. And so where you see the value here, value equals to 49, that shows me that I went into this function. Right, so you follow the flow here. It goes to here, goes into here, goes to value, comes back out, and then you're back to here, and you're good. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit of like me coding, troubleshooting, and printing or debugging at various steps here. So I feel pretty good about this one. So let me clear this out. So I'm pretty good that this function works. Right, now this comes back to here. Right, so the person told me like they wanted to do this quadratic formula, right? And actually, I have to say I haven't touched quadratic formula in a million years, so I have to look it up. So I don't really know what quadratic formula is all about here. Another thing is, assuming that the quadratic formula is correct. You know, this looks pretty complicated. So again, I want to break things down, right? But before we do that, let's figure out what actually is a quadratic formula. So let me close this, and I did a search, and on Wikipedia, it has a quadratic formula, right? So I can kind of quickly see that this kind of looks like what they're trying to do here, okay? But it's not quite right, all right? And you can see they do the square root on this negative b squared, all right? If you look at a quadratic formula, basically it's you got this b squared, you got this negative sign on the outside, it's plus or minus actually, but let's say you have the negative here, but then you can see it's b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so actually it should encompass this whole thing here. Okay, but actually I don't want to kind of play around with this. It's very easy to get all confused with all these different parentheses and whatnot. So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to try to break this out a little bit. So I'm going to do var, I don't know, for the lack of a better word, I should say numerator, but let me say something like top or something. And let's assume we're not going to have that be. And the other issue here, I happen to know this, and you might get this through trial and error, this is not how you do an exponent when you're doing this JavaScript calculation. Actually, it should be star star. So what you should get, let's say for the top, is b star star and 2 and minus 4 times a times c. Okay, so that kind of takes out this whole thing here, and I should just be able to say this is top, and then this is a minus and a minus. Okay, so minus b minus the math square root of b squared minus 4ab. I believe that's what the formula said over here. Oh, 4ac actually. Okay, b squared minus 4ac. So b squared minus 4ac. Alright, so that looks like b squared minus 4 times a times c. right? And then there should be math square root of top, and then I have a minus b minus that over 2a. So let's double check these parens. I have open paren, open paren, open paren, close paren, open here, and here. So I think I'm off a little bit. So I think if I do this, I have minus b, so 2 parens here, another paren here, another paren here. So I think my count of the open and closed parens should match up now. But it's in the wrong locations. So actually, this paren has to be here, and I could take that one out. Okay, so this kind of looks about right. Okay, and so I have this paren here. It's not really anything from a computer standpoint that I really need, but it's more from a human readability standpoint. So I think people trying to compare their formula would like to kind of see it like this, and they think about it this way, where you do the 2a below this from the division standpoint. So I think this should all work. So let's see what happens. Okay. So now we get this NaN, right? And let me see what this top is, right? Chances are that's where the problem is. So I'm going to do a document, right, top equals top, and then close this up. And oops, what did I do here? Top equals to, okay. So what happened here? B and C. Alright, so those variables all look fine. So what happened? Oh, let's see. Let me just double check here. Right, so that looks fine. I should be doing a star star. Let me see. Why is that not working? And if I do that. Alright, I think I messed up here. I used a keyword for this top, which kind of screwed things up here a little bit. So that's why I just put top 1 and top 1, then now it shows it up correctly. And it's still not gonna work because now I'm trying to take a square root of a negative number. So me printing out that as minus 188. Let me see how I can set this so I can get a bigger value. So let me say this is 30. What's this look like? 648. Okay, and still getting a bad value in here. But at least I think this part is correct now. And that's why I didn't change this top one. And there we go. All right. So a little bit of like trial and tribulation, but we finally got there. So playing around a little bit, but you can kind of see sort of the process or flow of me trying to troubleshoot this and figure out how to get this to work and come out with a reasonable number. So hopefully this was helpful. I'll try to get some more examples of me debugging different things. I'm getting a lot of emails from people about different pieces of code to debug. If I see something interesting, maybe I'll do another few videos to show examples of debugging on the JavaScript. Okay, thank you.